Within the last 10 years, comic books and comic book culture have experienced an unprecedented rise in popularity. Avengers: Infinity War was the largest film of 2018, Batman celebrated his 80th birthday in March of 2019, and San Diego Comic-Con is largely considered to be the most popular venue to debut first looks at genre movies and television shows. Despite the popularity of comic book characters in popular media, however, the popularity of comic book stores seems to have stayed at a relatively consistent level in the eyes of the public. Let's explore 3 different stores that sell comic books and see whether or not they've actually benefited from the super popularity of these superheroes.
Comix Corner, how can I help you? Hi, my name is Danny Potashik Jr. I'm a co-owner of Comix Corner along with my dad. We've had both locations for 36 years in Fraser and 26 years in Rochester Hills.
My name is Jen Swackhammer and I'm the field operations manager here at Comix City. I've been working for Comix City since 2001. Kind of just wandered in, got to know the owner a little bit, and it became a part-time job, and then I kind of moved into my full-time job.
My name's Charlie Ausnamer. I'm the key holder here at 2nd and Charles, as well as one of the comic book guys. I'm one of the guys who buys in comics for trade or sale, as well as put them out, present them to the customers, things like that.
Get that one, Bob.
I think you'll like that one.
Come on, get that one.
Let's get that one.
A whole pet store.
Holy moly, that sounds like fun.
I've been reading comics since probably I was 8 years old. I bought my first comic because I was watching the old Batman Adam West show, and I bought my first copy of Batman at a Perry Drugs.
I started reading comic books when I was 4. We opened the store when I was 4 years old, and kind of the way I learned to read, and just kind of been with me my whole life.
When the Sam Raimi Spider-Man came out, that's when I started buying comic books and really getting involved in the culture.
So yeah, since the comic book boom, 2008, we've definitely seen more people come in. It's kind of changed the culture. There's more people looking for books and comics, and not necessarily people always buying comic books, but just people looking for things that are comic books, and it's definitely made it that people know they still exist.
We've definitely seen ups and downs since comic movies came out. A lot of people have come out and wanted to check things out. New movies come out. Guardians was a fantastic example of that too. People were surprised to find out they would enjoy something like that, and then they came and checked out the comics.
It's easier to watch a movie than read a book. I know sometimes I go to the movies thinking, where are all these people at?
Comic book stores have a bad reputation. That's our biggest challenge, so we want to have a place that's a cool and comfortable place where you can bring your wife, your girlfriend, your mom, you know, and they could come in, not be afraid, not the dank, like, comic book stores of the 70s and 80s, you know. It's highs and lows, just like everything else, but I believe location's a factor. We did just relocate this store, and it's a huge difference from where we used to be. And I think that running it as a business and not as a hobby, which is sometimes a pratfall that comic stores fall into.
There'll be a character that's big at one point, and then all of a sudden people just fall out of favor, and sometimes there's no reason. So just being able to stay on top of just kind of the pulse if you can, and sadly the pulse changes a lot.
Right now the ebbs and flows of our business kind of hinge on the ebbs and flow of Marvel Comics and DC Comics, and that's just kind of finding our place and not needing them 100% to make sure that, you know, we have a great week.
The comic book section in relation to the rest of the store is really important to me, but as far as to the total sales, it's not super important, but small adds up to big. And we do have some customers that come in that'll buy, you know, $100 worth of comic books at some time. Do I see 2nd and Charles as an evolution of comic book stores? Not necessarily. So we don't really get customers in here looking for new comics. A lot of them are looking for comics that have been out for 20, 30 years. I think it's the nostalgia thing. These were handwritten, hand-drawn. A lot of like blood, sweat, and tears went into these old comic books, and I think people appreciate that more.
You know, we make sure to have a diversified line of products and you know, just try to carry something for everybody. And we are a comic city, but at the same time, it's anticipating trends. Are people still gonna be buying single issues? You know, we're focusing on top 300 trade paperbacks and things like that. And then bringing in other things, just fun stuff. You know, it's not just a comic book store, it's a gift store. You know, it's a place you go when you gotta buy Dad a gift or Jimmy a gift or whoever.
While comic book stores today are attempting to diversify the products they carry, the question is now raised: how do all of your favorite comics get to the store shelves?
We start 2 months early. with a catalog called Previews, and that's where we order a majority of our comic books through, as well as trade paperbacks. 3 weeks before the comic comes out is something called Final Order Cutoff, or FOCs, which is our last chance to put in changes to orders 3 weeks before the books come out. Then when the books ship to Diamond, they load everything up. They leave Plattsburgh, New Jersey on Friday. They get here on Tuesday to our warehouse. Well, the warehouse gets the pallet. They strip the pallet, they split it. We have a custom build program called Retail Pro that tells us where everything goes, so the owners go through that, check for damages, pop everything into separate boxes, load it up, head it out, and by Tuesday afternoon usually I have the books. I get everything done here, pull files done, books loaded on the shelf for the next day, and then we're ready to go on Wednesday morning.
While it's important to know how the comics get to the store shelves, nothing is more important to these stores than the people who buy them.
So there's Avengers, Spider-Man, there's a Black Panther as well. Those will appear towards him.
That's another program. He does Funko Pops. He collects shoes, believe it.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Between both stores, we've had people that have been coming, with original number 10s and stuff, people coming the whole 36 years. So definitely regulars, but also it's kind of the whole package, but regulars is bigger than just the everyday people.
We do have a lot of regular customers, a lot of them that I know on a first name basis. A lot of the times I'll put comics off to the side that I think they'll be interested in, and it's nice to have that connection.
It's fun. I get to meet a lot of interesting people. It's easy mode retail. Everybody that comes in is happy to be here. We all have something in common because we like the same things, be it comics or toys or whatever.
I've been coming to Comix City now for, at least a decade.
I've been coming here since I was 13. Hopefully my son's coming here when he's 13. He's 7 now. He's been coming here since he was born.
Well, I wasn't into comics much growing up. So when my daughter got into it, it was kind of fun to learn. It's just fun. It's helping to build our relationship and keep it going on the fun and light side.
I think comic book stores are really great in terms of bringing people together because for me they kind of function as a safe space for me to get really into the fandoms that I'm excited about.
It was my neighborhood comic shop. The staff here, they became basically like family, come in and even talk to them, on days that I don't even have comics to buy. So it's always been, a real good atmosphere.
I used to get made fun of for liking superheroes. Having a physical space like a comic book shop and other fans, it's been really nice to connect with people who understand the impact these characters can have.
It means a lot having a place we can come hang out, check out our favorite books or favorite movie characters, and we get here and there's other parents with other small children as well, and seeing them get excited about reading.
The reason I like coming to the comic book stores is where I can go with my dad and my mom and spend time with them.
I love the people. And selling a kid their first comic book is an absolutely thrilling experience.
All right. 17, 18, 19.
You want a bag?
Yes, please.
There you go, bud. Thank you. I've watched customers grow up. I've watched kids go from the kids section to regular comics and everything. So that happens a lot, and I get a lot of things back to me that way.
While the dedicated community of people who go to the stores are important to comic book culture, they're not the only group of people comic book stores are interested in serving. Comix City, in particular, puts emphasis on charitable contributions to their local community, especially during the holidays.
We run 2 food drives a year. Our first is our December Customer Appreciation Food Drive. People bring in canned goods, and in return they get a discount off in the store. And it gives us a chance to give something back. We team up with gleaners and pull in over 1,000 pounds of food usually every year.
I definitely think in terms of both helping the community and getting people together that like comics and superheroes and all of these fictional characters that mean a lot to us, I think it's really nice to kind of build the community here and also help the community in need with the food donations and other donations.
It's great. I think there might be a perception of people who shop at comic book stores maybe not doing as much for the community, and doing something like this and collecting for gleaners really gets it out there that they do care about the community and that it's good-hearted.
Despite the best efforts of comic book stores, much like regular bookstores, they're still attempting to sell physical media in a world that's going increasingly digital. Oakland University librarian and professor Sean McCann took the time to explain to us why physical media, like comic books, may be going by the wayside.
it's what our users want more. You know, that's what they're signaling to us that they want, are these digital materials. And digital does offer some advantages. If we have, say, an ebook, theoretically, any number of people could read those books, although a lot of those ebooks and things come with arbitrary restrictions on them. It's a weird sort of parallel to the physical, like, because if we own the physical book, you can only lend it out to one person. So they're trying to take that physical limitation and make it a digital, or make it a limitation in the digital world. Most libraries are probably more interested in acquiring materials digitally than the analog.
While digital media offers distinct advantages in the area of distribution, how does an increasingly digital environment affect the artists who produce comic books? Artist and graphic designer Imari Searles Harper discusses the advantages and disadvantages of producing art catered to a digital world.
I think that I've grown most accustomed to designing on digital just because I pretty much grew up on computers, as I think most of the people in my generation did. So I've done physical work, but I think I'm way more comfortable doing digital. The biggest draw for doing digital is just the flexibility of it all. You can grab a paintbrush and then 10 seconds later have just a pencil or your eraser, and all of those things are accessible in this one little tablet or whatever you have. You don't have to have a whole studio of materials anymore. Your materials are your tablet or are your device that you use. A lot of comic book artists nowadays, they cater to both. When you put your work out in the digital landscape, it's so much easier for like people around the world to connect with you. But something about seeing your work actually out in the world, living and breathing, it's just different. Like, you know that other people get to appreciate and other people can walk past and just see it. Whereas in digital, it's more so just like trying to get your audience there. But out in the physical world, it can just be happenstance. Like someone just happened to see it, and it's really rewarding.
Digital media and art may affect the process of production and distribution of comic books, but the comic book store owners who sell them are confident that the future will always have a place for physical media and comic book stores.
I do think Second and Charles is probably a last holdout for physical media. People, you know, like reliving that special time in their childhood where this thing brought them joy, and I think nostalgia plays a big part.
There's still sort of that nostalgic feeling about getting comic books and, you know, being able to flip through the pages, and I feel like that's just something that you really don't get in digital.
My preferred way to consume comic books is the physical versions.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a big difference to hold it in your hands and have it in front of you.
I see maybe that, you know, the ecological footprint of just having a digital comic someday would probably be better.
Physical is great, don't get me wrong, but there's something about like just having it like in your hands and it's instant. You don't have to go out and get it anywhere. You can literally order things online now and it's instantly accessible to you.
I prefer the physical over the digital. You know, I've always just liked it, but I think again it's because that's what I've always looked at. So I feel it's not really fair for me to say. I'm sure if I talk to some cat that just started reading that's 12 years old, he might just like the digital comics because that's what he's used to. But for me, I just like being able to turn the pages and going back.
There's also something about building a collection. I like having all my, you know, trade paperbacks, you know, in order on my shelf.
Collecting is nice too, just to look at the shelf and be like, there's everything, you know, I've got this whole run of something, you know.
If you're into the hobby and you want to collect, you know, there's books nowadays that because of the variant cover or whatever, it's $40 the second day it comes out, and you're a guy that wants to make money off of it, that can't happen with digital comics.
Collectors are incredibly important to the preservation of a lot of these things because I think when it comes to libraries, or maybe more appropriately, I guess, archives, we don't necessarily always know what to collect or what is going to be important. I mean, think of comic books and how they were kind of maligned for a really long time. It wasn't necessarily seen as something that a library or an archive should necessarily collect, but there was a huge body of people that really enjoyed them and did collect them and whatnot. And I'm certain that there's probably this body of literature that would be like lost to time if it weren't for people that were collecting them. And where are libraries getting these materials from? Probably from collectors. So yeah, I think they're really, really important.
I don't think physical items will ever disappear. We do get a lot of people coming, vinyl is in a resurgence right now. A lot of people would rather buy vinyl than get it on a digital iTunes or Spotify. People will always want something to remind them of something that brought them joy before.
It's always possible that they will evolve. I think there's always going to be a place for retail.
I don't know how you really evolve with that. I feel that I see other places, and I don't know if I would want to do this, but there's a store in Legends in the Carolinas that they actually have like a coffee shop and a comic store, and some places are doing more bars and so things like that. So I think you'll probably see a different version of stores as it goes on, you know?
What we carry may change, but I think people are going to want a place to go just to enjoy themselves, and there's not a comparison of browsing in a store, you know, compared to just looking at something on a computer screen.
Comic books especially, like, it's something about having that physical form of that comic book that just, it sets it over the top. I mean, digital is great, but like, just feeling the pages and like the ink is just really nice on the page. It's great. I love that.
Because this is the first ever costume ever made. And then he moved on to this kind of costume. The thing I love about comic books is how it brings out like feelings and stuff.
It's inviting. It's a happy place and it's a fun place.
We're friendly and everyone's welcome. That's pretty much always been Dad's thing and my thing, that whoever you are, it doesn't matter, come on in. So we'll find something for you.
The essence of having the neighborhood comic shop will never change.